right, I think we are about ready to begin. I want to say good morning and good afternoon to everyone on the East Coast. I want to thank everyone who's attending. We have another great turnout for our latest webinar in the NIMBL lecture series. This one's going to be Real-World ERP on HANA Migration Strategy, Demystifying and Removing Fear. I'm Jake Eisbart, part of the NIMBL marketing team. A little bit about us. NIMBL is a Denver, Colorado-based company. We are fully onshore, an SAP company that handles production support, project counseling services, SOW support of ERP, CRM, development, security, and we actually have an employee-based in-house band known as the Implementations that we're very proud of. Here is a quick list of all the services that we currently provide. Obviously today we'll be focusing on HANA. And here is a list of some of the customers that we've worked with and are currently working with. Just a couple of housekeeping items. We want to be able to answer as many questions and comments that you have as possible. So feel free to put them into the chat box in the bottom left corner, and we will respond to them at the end of the session. All right, so let's get to it. Our speaker today is Michael Pytel. Michael is a certified SAP NetWeaver, HANA, and Solution Manager resource, possessing over 10 years of technical SAP implementation expertise and over 13 years of overall ERP project experience. He's a frequent presenter at SAP Insider, ASUG, and SAP conferences. He's the author of the SAP Pressbook, Implementing SAP Business Suite on SAP HANA 2015. And his favorite Kardashian is Doug Kardashian, a lesser-known second cousin to the sisters who lives in Omaha. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Michael. Michael, go ahead and take it away.
Good afternoon. Good morning, everybody. So today what we're going to talk about, again, is the Suite on HANA migration. And really what I wanted to do today is focus on the facts, focus on what really happens, what are the things that we all need to plan for and prepare for as we look to do a Suite on HANA migration. So we're going to talk about how we get from any version of ERP to ERP on HANA. We're going to talk about the migration tools. We're going to talk a little bit about dependencies with other components, third-party add-ons. Hear about how we can estimate test scope, estimate the length of our project, and we're going to talk about landscape options for the move to ERP and HANA. Now before we get started, I wanted to throw a quick poll question out there. So you should see a poll question on screen that you can answer. And we have a series of these questions throughout the webinar to help us understand as an audience where are we in our life cycle, what are we doing. So I'm going to have questions that people can answer related to enhancement packages and installing and length and time. And this information is not just beneficial for me as the speaker and gearing my content towards your answers, but also for you in the audience to understand other participants on the phone today and where are they at in their life cycle. So we should see some results coming in. A majority of you are still researching, which is fantastic. I would say that's where a majority of the industry is today, is still researching our options for a Suite on HANA migration, and is it right for us? So when talking about upgrades and migrations, when you move to Suite on HANA, you will be upgrading your system more than likely. Now there are certain groups of people out there that are already running Enhancement Pack 7, which is the first release of ERP for Suite on HANA, and are thinking, well, I'll just do a migration. And what I would like to talk about is how the migration tools that are available to you include the ability to move to the latest support package stack. So in theory, yes, you as customers can move to Suite on HANA if you're running Enhancement Pack 7, but I'm going to make some arguments as to why you would still do an upgrade and migration rather than just a straight migration. But thinking about why do we upgrade, right? We should be upgrading to realize value from our maintenance agreements. So, when all of our organizations initially implemented SAP, we calculated an ROI based on the implementation cost. Well, that ROI calculation, that clock should restart every year. Every year we're either paying 18 or 22% maintenance to SAP. They are delivering enhancements that are available to us. We need to be calculating an ROI and determining what are we going to do this year to make best use of those maintenance dollars we're spending with SAP. If you're just paying maintenance for SAP support calls, those are some pretty expensive support calls. Now, we also want to be upgrading to optimize business processes. And I'm going to throw out some functional enhancements that are available to us when we move to Suite on HANA that I think are part of my faves, my top 5. But there's thousands of enhancements available, and I'm going to show you all how to navigate and find the enhancements that are applicable to your environment. Another reason why we upgrade is typically hardware and software end of life. A couple customers that we have were Oracle on Itanium, and with an unknown future of Oracle on Itanium, for them it made sense to do a platform migration because they needed to do it anyways, right? They had a specific Oracle release that was not supported by SAP. They needed to upgrade kernels. They also wanted to take advantage of analytics with Suite on HANA. So those are some of the reasons why we upgrade. Now so the next poll question is how long does your organization's enhancement package projects usually last? And I'm asking this question just to really get a gauge of the audience of how are people running enhancement pack projects, and what is the duration of those? And the reason why this is a good question is because the Suite on HANA migration can be treated like an enhancement pack project. So when you move to Suite on HANA, you're going to be more than likely installing a support package stack. You're going to be installing an enhancement pack more than likely. And we're going to talk about how running an enhancement pack project can be run very similar to a Suite on HANA project. So as the results come in, we have a couple people. We have over half the crowd today is more than 6 months, and a couple that are less than 3 months. So that's fantastic. SAP's rapid deployment solution for enhancement packages is between 8 and 12 weeks. 12 weeks is pretty much the standard that we see when NIMBL runs an enhancement pack project. And then we're able to do this with narrowly defining test scope because, as you all know, the hardest part of an enhancement pack project is testing. And we're going to talk about narrowly defining test scope here today. That leads to my next slide. Why do we avoid upgrades? Testing. Don't know what to test, don't know how to test, or it consumes too many resources, business people aren't available, or we're avoiding upgrades because of licensing. Changes to license agreements, varying incentives, no clear value of the value prop for an upgrade. So those are some of the reasons why we don't upgrade. I believe all of you out there will agree with some of those. So my goals today are to talk about how we can reduce the fear of innovation through education. So there's a lot of fear around Suite on HANA, a lot of misinformation out there, I believe. A lot of people feel like it is an earth-shattering, groundbreaking change to business processes. And what you're going to find today is that by moving to Suite on HANA at the application layer, your business processes are going to run as is. So whether running HANA as a database or Oracle or SQL, you've configured ERP for your business. You've executed all that configuration. You have custom development. All of that configuration, all of that custom development will run as is when you run Suite on HANA. And there's a couple of reasons why this is. So when your developers created custom ABAP code to run on whatever database you have today, if they're following SAP's best practices, they're using what's called OpenSQL. So OpenSQL is what every base SAP program is using, so that when it interacts with a database, it is not calling database-specific functionality. This is why SAP's Suite on HANA migration can be streamlined or is not very scary, is because all base SAP programs use OpenSQL. So everything that runs in SAP today on any other database will continue to run on SAP ERP on HANA. Now, you should begin thinking about questions around now optimization. Well, if everything runs as is, am I going to see benefits? You'll see some benefits. The majority of your benefits, though, will come through optimization. So I'm going to try to reduce fear about that and show you how you can do your own proof of concepts, how you can use the Cloud Appliance Library to help you do that, and how we can narrowly identify test scope using tools you already own as well. We know there's third-party tools out in the marketplace, Live Compare and Panaya. I'm going to talk about tools in Soulman that you already own that typically meet most of our customers' requirements when planning upgrades and migrations to Suite on HANA. I'm also going to talk about minimizing downtime and one-step upgrades, because that's key here, as testing is the most expensive component of our ERP on HANA project. So we want to make sure that we spend our testing dollars wisely and maximize those resources. So in terms of the ability for you as a customer to operate a Suite on HANA environment or S4 environment on your own and not need to engage a partner, the way that you can do this is through the Cloud Appliance Library. So cal.sap.com is a way for every SAP customer to access trial versions of multiple SAP components. So it could be BW on HANA, it could be ERP on HANA, it could be S4, it could be business objects. This is a wonderful solution for customers to work sort of under the covers, right, or under the radar around specific initiatives. We know that some customers, they avoid doing a HANA POC because they don't want the vendors calling, the hardware vendors calling, the services vendors calling. We want to just kind of do an internal POC. And cal.sap.com is one way to do that. That being said, it runs on Amazon's infrastructure. If you need support there, obviously, numerous partners out there to support, including NIMBL, to help get those things connected up in your environment and make those demos or those POCs actionable. But cal.sap.com, Cloud Appliance Library, a wonderful resource for SAP customers to set up demo environments. And these environments can be loaded with your data as well. Now they're cloud-based; they're based in Amazon's infrastructure, and so we can if you have specific questions about how do we do that, we can dive into that a little bit later. I mentioned earlier we need to be able to find the enhancements that are available to us when we move to Suite on HANA or when we move to a new enhancement pack. The Innovation and Discovery app from SAP on the Service Marketplace, I've posted the URL on the bottom there. This is where you as a customer can go and find specific information about enhancements available to your environment. Today, your Solution Manager system, if set up correctly and if you have early watch reports running, is sharing data with SAP, the Service Marketplace, about what you have installed and how things are identified within your Solution Manager system. Based on that information, SAP knows what you have installed, what support package stack version, what enhancement pack version you're running, etc. Using that information, SAP has created the Innovation Discovery app so that we can navigate what enhancements are available to us today on EHP 7. If I move to EHP 8 in January, right, we're expecting a Q1 release of Enhancement Pack 8 for ERP. If I move to Enhancement Pack 8, what are the enhancements that become available for me then? What are the Fiori apps that I can deploy today? The Innovation Discovery app is a quick place for you all to be able to access and find those enhancements. And I think what's nice is that I can filter on enhancements by an enhancement package. I can filter on enhancements by, is it an add-on? Does it require an additional license? Do I already own it? Those are all things that apply here as filters within the Innovation Discovery app. So a wonderful way for you as customers to navigate SAP Service Marketplace, navigate all the enhancements that have been delivered, and figure out what's applicable for you. Now, I did mention I wanted to talk about for me, what are some of my functional enhancements that I like when running Suite on HANA. The first one is in the area of finance. So specifically in this area, when you move to a Suite on HANA, when you migrate and complete your move to Suite on HANA, the finance area actually has a lot of enhancements enabled out of the box. We see a lot of H transactions. So FBL03H replaces FBL03N. And the H transaction now takes advantage of HANA calculated analytical views, and we're seeing literally runtimes reduced by 300%. So much so, if there's any finance or accounting users on the phone, they know when they run FBL3N today, they have to enter in selection criteria, otherwise they're going to get a timeout. They need to narrow it down to a period or a series of periods. Running it for a year wide open typically causes memory dumps in a lot of our systems. We are literally able to run FBL03H in users' environments that have 5-10 years of data, and we're able to run it wide open. So really fantastic enhancements there. There's no additional work. It's available out of the box, and I don't have to activate any enhancement package functionality. Now, logistics and procurement also have significant improvements with Suite on HANA, but their functionality is delivered with the enhancements in Enhancement Pack 7. There's a specific function called MRP Live. So being able to run MRP simulations interactively rather than constantly running MRP in the background. Being able to run MRP more often and do more fine-tuning throughout the day. We know if we have a situation where a series of orders come in at the end of the day and MRP is running at night, that's great. But what about those situations where those are next day orders and we don't have production orders being created in a timely manner for production to produce for the orders that are due next day? So in the logistics area, specific with MRP, we have the ability with MRP Live to execute MRP more quickly and more often. Wonderful enhancements there. And then within the procurement space, major enhancements again, major performance enhancements, process improvements, new reporting capability, and it's a very minor activation effort. We would use the enhancement package framework, the switch framework with enhancement package to activate these. And this is just 3 areas, again, out of 1,000 enhancements that are available to you all that we typically see customers using. So our next polling question is, does your organization leverage enhancements delivered with enhancement packages today? And the reason why we're asking this is what we find out is when we go to a lot of customer environments, they are installing enhancement packages, but they're not executing the follow-on effort to go and find what enhancements are out there that I should be using or enabling. For example, with Enhancement Pack 4, SAP delivered over 100 out-of-the-box new financial reports called Fin Report 4. And that's a wonderful enhancement. It doesn't impact any business processes. and it's something that's just adding new content. So these are a lot of these enhancements that SAP is producing don't always mean business process change. Sometimes they're adding new code, new transactions, new functionality so that our existing business processes are not impacted. And we have a good responsive mixes. We have a good set of responses here. We have about 15 people reporting right now. Half of you have some active, the other half have not since we went live. And so enhancements are definitely not scary. They can be analyzed by solution managers to understand the impact. And I think most of our customers, the biggest problem is finding which ones to turn on. So in terms of enhancements with the Suite on HANA migration, you're not only going to be getting those functional enhancements I talked about within finance and logistics and procurement, but we're also going to have some major technical enhancements. So Fiori and Personas. Fiori is available with any release of ERP. We know that. But a lot of the standard applications that SAP is delivering that are analytical or fact sheet applications, they're only available from using HANA as a database. So you'll have 1,000+ Fiori applications available to you once you move to that Suite on HANA. But again, I don't want to tell you that Fiori is not available for if you're non-HANA. Fiori is available against any database. It's just the number of standard apps available to you is significantly less. One of the nicest, or I think most beneficial technical enhancements is the introduction of HANA Live. The ability to have analytical and calculated views directly over transactional data within the database, enabling us to connect business objects in Lumira quickly to our ERP system for analytics against live transactional data. So potentially replacing or augmenting our BW reporting and enabling our business users to report against the transactional data directly. One great use case for this is daily sales reporting. Rather than waiting for the nightly extract to happen into BW, a daily sales report is a very nice Lumira report, a business object report with HANA Live so that I can access that report any time of the day. And this is also great for customers with multiple time zones in multiple countries so that they're not dependent upon some sort of delta load in BW. They're now able to connect it directly to ERP and access reporting live. Within ABAP world, there's major technical enhancements with 740 and ABAP, reducing batch and interactive runtimes. We do have some optimization opportunities after go live or after migration typically, where we can enhance our ABAP code to take advantage of the ability to push logic down to the database and making things run faster and better. Now, when I talk about HANA with customers, I also talk about how it changes how people work. So when you work today within SAP GUI, this is what if a manager logged into SAP and said, what is my remaining budget available this year? This is the typical screen that we would see as a manager, right? So I'd log in and I'd run the report here to look at my budgets and look at what's planned and what's available. And you can see here, I really have to look at this grid. Number one, it's not very sexy. Number two, there's a minus sign for the 783 on the second to last line in the budget screen. So I have to really look at the screen in order to interpret where am I over budget. Now when moving to Suite on HANA with Fiori, this is how a manager can check their budget. How does this manager know where they're over budget? Right? They were able to decipher that within the first 2 or 3 seconds by knowing, look, this red area here on the lower right, this is where I'm over budget. And they can click within there and get the detail. What was my actual, what was my committed, what was my total, etc., and what's remaining. So the Suite on HANA migration is going to change how people work. This is just one example of a user interface improvement where now my area managers, my line managers, my people in the field or within the corporate office and that are working with budgets and making decisions as to what can they spend, when can they spend it. Again, on the prior screen they had to look at a grid row to understand where their remaining budget is at, and then very quickly within Fiori, which can be accessed on the tablet, on the iPhone, on desktop browser, they're able to interrogate their budgets very quickly. In terms of reporting, today we have the very extract and store philosophy of there's ERP transactions, then there's data warehouse extracts, then those are exported and compiled in some way, and we have our business objects dashboards or our Webby reports. Whereas in the future, those go away. With HANA Live and SAP Lumira, my ERP transactions, I have real-time reporting against those through HANA Live or through direct table access. And again, that's delivered through Lumira, which is a wonderful reporting tool to help get you to that real-time reporting. So far, again, I'm going to get to migrating. when talking about reasons to upgrade, we want to focus on driving value from SAP maintenance. So installing enhancement packages isn't sufficient, as you all know. Just installing the code doesn't actually make it active. We have to switch these things on. And again, that ROI clock should restart every year. We're paying SAP maintenance every year. We need to be driving as much value as we possibly can from that. As we look to actually executing the Suite on HANA migration, I want to talk a little bit about release planning. And so a lot of customers have an N-1 revision strategy, which, as it relates to enhancement packages, is not, in my opinion, is not a correct philosophy. And it's not correct because of what's called support package stack equivalencies. So the latest support package stack for Enhancement Pack 7 has an equivalency for Enhancement Pack 6 and 5 and 4 and 0, etc. So by applying the latest support package stack to an ERP system without any enhancements, you're getting you're patching core SAP code. Now with enhancement packages, when you install Enhancement Pack 7, your business processes are not changing because the application code is being installed dormant. So with enhancement packages, we should always look to move to the latest enhancement package. Now, the support package stack you choose for that enhancement package release, we could adopt an N-1 revision strategy, in the thinking that we're operating on a support package stack that has had a greater deployment and there's more SAP notes and the bugs have kind of been all worked out. But with regards to enhancement packages, just know that the delta between EHP 6 and EHP 7 is being installed in your environment dormant. So you're not going to be regression testing new stuff. You're regression testing your existing ERP system. So look to, as you look to your release planning, and we know Enhancement Pack 7 is out now. We know Enhancement Pack 8 is slated for Q1. Depending on where your project lifecycle is, we would definitely recommend moving to the latest enhancement pack. Again, support package stack levels, there's some debate there. Now, we also need to look at what version of HANA should we deploy. In HANA now, SAP now has what they call the SAP HANA Data Center Service Point. This is SAP's recommended version of HANA that they believe is production ready. So SAP HANA is continually being enhanced. There's major revisions, there's minor revisions, and I've got 2 links here that you'll get after the webinar. We'll send the presentation out. But really what this talks about is SAP's recommendations for what data center service point to move to, which SAP believes is production data center ready. So today, the DSP service point is SP10-102. So 102 is the version that SAP recommends that all customers would go live on. If you're running a project today, or if you're going live in the next 6 weeks, SAP would recommend you moving to revision 102 for HANA, which is support package stack 10. There's more on it on the note that I have here on the screen, and again, we'll send this out. And really what I wanted you to take away from this is just know that we're not only release planning for enhancement packs or support package stacks, but we also need to determine our HANA version as well. And again, on this slide, I have the source link. So when you get the PDF of this, you'll be able to read some of the source documentation that I referenced here. So moving along, test scope identification. Question out there, did you know SAP offers a tool to measure the impact of upgrades and enhancement packages? And the secret here is that this tool has actually been available to customers for over 6 years. Solution Manager Business Process Change Analyzer was first released with Solution Manager 7.0 Enhancement Pack 1 a lot long ago. And now it's been greatly enhanced with Solution Manager 7.1 with what's called the Scope and Effort Analyzer, which I will live demo for you here today. And we got a couple of responses out there right now. We got 13 people, 14 responses. Some of you are aware of it and using it, which is fantastic. And again, the purpose of this tool delivered by SAP as part of your maintenance is to help you understand, go in eyes wide open, what's going to be impacted by upgrading to Enhancement Pack 7 or Enhancement Pack 8 during my Suite on HANA migration. What transaction codes are going to be impacted, what custom codes are going to be impacted, what am I going to need to regression test? And so we're going to talk about these tools, and we're going to live demo them as well. So you may have heard of these tools. I'm just going to give you a brief overview. Solution Documentation Assistant is a tool from SAP that enables us to connect to our production system and documents the usage of our system, both custom and standard application So whether it's a custom T-code or a custom ABAP report or a standard T-code, Solution Documentation System is a tool in SolMan that helps reverse document our business processes. Once those business processes are stored within Solution Manager, we can now execute what's called the Business Process Change Analyzer. This is the detailed impact analysis by transaction code or program, and it's been available to customers for some time now. The most recent enhancement to the suite of tools that SAP has delivered is this Scope and Effort Analyzer. This is the tool I'm going to show you today, and I think is most applicable. It's included with Solution Manager 7.1 SP11 or above. So if you're not there yet, please consider upgrading your Solution Manager system to get there, because the Scope and Effort Analyzer is the first tool from SAP that allows us to do sort of a cloud-based compare. So this Business Process Change Analyzer has always been able to do an impact analysis, but it required one upgraded or migrated system and one non-upgraded or migrated system. So I had to have a source and a target, and I could compare the two systems and get an impact analysis. So this was great for SAP customers, but it was bad for those customers that didn't have a system running yet, right? I didn't have a sandbox running with the new enhancement package, so I couldn't do that impact analysis. So SAP knows what you want to install because of Maintenance Optimizer and building of the basis team building their download baskets as to what they're going to install. So Scope and Effort Analyzer is the first tool from SAP that enables you to do a what-if analysis against your ERP system before ever downloading anything, before ever installing anything. So let's say today you wanted to do an analysis of going to Enhancement Pack 7, you're currently in Enhancement Pack 4, you don't have a sandbox, you don't have anything installed. As long as Solution Manager is running the correct version and configured properly, we can do that impact analysis. Now when I say configured properly, I don't mean 6 months of effort or consulting to do that. These Scope and Effort Analyzer projects are typically 2-week projects, and the output of these is what I'm going to demo in a little bit. You'll talk about, what you'll see is that the output of the Scope and Effort Analyzer is a detailed estimation of effort regarding ABAP code remediation and testing required when you move to Enhanced Pack 7. Now there's also a utility from SAP that was recently released, again available with Support Package Stack 11 in Solution Manager 7.1, that enables us to reverse document our business processes at a unit test level or by a module view. So this is a very quick time to value. I install an SAP note for this utility program. Once it's installed, I can run an ABAP program that will read my usage of my production ERP system and build out a project in my business process library within Solution Manager so I can begin doing some impact analysis. Now the downside of this tool is that it's not your end-to-end business processes, because it doesn't sort of follow a cookie crumb trail of a document through your ERP system. So it's not going to document your ERP processes end-to-end, order to cash, record to report. It's not doing that. What it is doing, though, is going to be documenting every transaction code, custom and standard that your users use in one business process library that's easy to navigate, easy to read, because it's a unit test view. And I'll try to show that here shortly. Now, in the interest of time, I'm going to move forward to some live demos. I wanted to first quickly talk about the test scope optimization tool in Solution Manager. So today, as we look at as we look to execute an enhancement pack or support package stack project, we typically have a test bed or a list of test scripts that we're running that cover a specific set of transactions. Now, without the impact analysis tools, more than likely your philosophy is test everything. With the impact analysis tools, I can get a detailed analysis of what's impacted by the upgrade. So here we have what's called test scope optimization. So in the first cell, the first row of the table on screen, you can see that if I was going to test everything, I would have to run 73 test scripts, and that effort is about 132 hours. Now, when I was doing if I want to do test scope optimization and I want to do 100% test coverage of my objects, I would run 44 test scripts. And what this is doing is this. Let's say I have an include updated by SAP as part of a support package or enhancement package, and that include is used in VA01, VA03, VA05. So one include is used by 3 transactions. You as a customer, what do you need to do? Do you need to test all 3 transactions? Or can we assume that by testing VA01, the other 2 transactions are fine because I've tested that updated include already in one transaction? And so that's really what test scope optimization is all about. Optimizing our test scope, figuring out what are the shared objects among transactions, providing you, the customer, with information about that so you can make a decision as to what is my test scope going to be. Am I going to test everything? Am I testing only things that are impacted? Of the things that are impacted, where are shared objects so that I can further narrowly define my test scope? So in the table here you can see if I were to test everything, I would run 73 test scripts. If I was able to optimize my test scope to get a 99% test coverage, right, testing 99% of the impacted transactions, I would reduce my test scope to 32 test scripts, effectively reducing my test scope by 61%. So a fantastic tool that is available in Solution Manager. I'm going to show you how to use it here shortly. Now, in terms of preparing for these tools, what you need to know is that you need to apply the latest STPI add-ons and execute this ABAP program within SC38. So you can pass this information to your basis team members. They know how to do this. They know how to interpret this information and can get this done. We also need the CDMC, Custom Development Management Cockpit Composite Node, installed on all systems. And so there's the SAP note for you to reference. You need to get that out and get that deployed. And then a couple more steps here in Solman setup. We have to do these custom code management steps. Once you've done all of these, you're then going to be able to take advantage of the scope and effort analyzer that I'm talking about. Now, what is it going to use? Number one, it's going to use the development system to understand what is all the custom code you have in your environment. It's going to access the production system to look for your usage statistics. What are my users using today in ERP so that I know how it's being used, when is it being used, and that becomes part of my impact analysis, so I'm only measuring the impact on things that are actually executed. In terms of time frames, the longer you run Solution Manager, the more data you're going to have. If your Solution Manager system today has 8 months of early watch reports in it, you're going to be able to analyze up to 8 months then. If your Solution Manager today only has 1 early watch report, then you're only going to be able to analyze probably about 90 days worth of data. So the longer you run Solution Manager, the longer it's creating early watch reports, the more accurate the data is going to be around the usage of your production system by your users, both custom and standard code. And then for test scope optimization, it's going to use your QA system. The idea here being that's a close representation of production, and it's going to run some analysis on that for you. I can analyze the installation of an ABAP add-on. I can analyze the installation of a support package. I can analyze the installation of an enhancement pack as if I'm moving to Suite on HANA with EHP 7 or EHP 8 when it becomes released. In terms of how does it estimate effort, there's some time values that you have access to input into the tool. So in the screenshot here, I just have a sample set of here test case create automated is 370 minutes. To create a manual test case is 240 minutes. In terms of execution, a transaction execution is a 2-hour execution, 120 minutes. So when Scope and Effort Analyzer is showing that you have 8 days of testing, assuming an 8-hour workday, that's how this data is being generated. It's being generated based off these values here. So you can take these default values from SAP, or you can modify them and adjust them on your own. Now what you're going to get at the end of this is a report here that I'm going to demo live after we answer this question. Is Solution Manager deployed with early watch reports available for all production systems? And here, the reason why this is important to us is if Solution Manager is running in your environment with early watch reports active, then I know that I can run, we could walk into your environment today and help you run a scope and effort analysis very quickly. Again, because this uses all the same infrastructure that the early watch reporting infrastructure does. And so far, by and large, all the audience members have production early watch reports. So that lets us know you all are set up for success and could begin using these tools very quickly. All right, I'm going to move to a share. I'm going to start sharing my screen. And the transaction I'm running is SM_WorkCenter within Solution Manager because I want to show to you the Scope and Effort Analyzer and really show you how we can interpret the data so that we're better prepared as we look to do our Suite on HANA migration. And again, this is NIMBL's key to the NIMBL Rapid Deployment Solution for Suite on HANA migrations. Our 12-week Rapid Deployment Solution for moving customers to ERP on any database to ERP on HANA is based on the usage of Solution Manager for the detailed impact analysis because we can't plan effective test cycles without this information. We can't plan for the amount of ABAP code remediation without this information. So we're able to very accurately estimate, plan, and run Suite on HANA migration projects using these tools within Solution Manager that you already own. So in the overview screen, I get some high-level information that is good, but we want to drive in a little bit. I can see here the number of objects that are impacted, the number of objects requiring update on my screen, and it's a little bit of an eye chart I see So I'm going to go ahead and try to zoom in a little bit here for you. Now, let's dive into some details. So right now in my custom code space, right, in terms of ABAP code in my landscape, there are basically about 19 objects that are going to need to be remediated. Now, what type of remediation needs to happen? Well, I have a certain number of objects that I have custom code using unreleased or changed SAP functions. I have custom code using obsolete SAP functions. So that's critical information for my development team. They need to know what is that. And so what I'm going to do now is get you into the details. Within my ERP landscape, which is very small, your environment's going to be a lot bigger and you're going to have a lot more data here. But within my ERP landscape, I can see now that I have a BAPI called ZBAPI Customer Get TLTL2 that references obsolete or unreleased SAP functions. This is absolutely critical. So before I ever installed anything in my landscape, I did a cloud-based comparison of the Enhancement Pack 7 or Enhancement Pack 8 when it's released against my ERP system so that I have detailed information from my development team as to, hey guys, this is everything that's going to potentially be impacted by that upgrade. Let's plan for how we're going to remediate this. When I say plan, what that means is let's plan for resource allocation. How many ABAP developers am I going to need? When am I going to need them? Et cetera, et cetera. So wonderful information here. Again, I can export it to Excel. I do get some time values here. It says that I need about 1.6 days or 2.6 days in total to do all the adjustments. And again, it's getting those values from the average value screen, which I'm showing here quickly, where I can say, hey, it takes my developer 30 minutes to modify a program. It takes them 15 minutes to modify a class, et cetera, et cetera. So a wonderful tool for the development teams. And it gets better for the testing teams because the testing piece is the most expensive, right? This is the testing phase of my project is where I'm going to have probably 10, 15, 20 different resources executing regression tests, and that is the resources are the most expensive part of my project. So here in this analysis, right off the bat, I can see that I have 355 business process steps, transactions or programs that are used in my ERP system. Now the purple bar here that we see is the test scope for the impact analysis. So out of the 355 transactions my users use, only 270 are impacted by the upgrade. If I apply some test scope optimization, I theoretically would only need to run 72 test scripts to have a 100% test case of all impacted objects. And again, this is taking into account that example I said, I have one SAP program, updated. That SAP program is used by 3 transaction codes. Do I need to test all 3 transaction codes? Yes or no? The answer for most is no. If I test that program in VA01, I probably don't need to run VA03 and VA05 because I've already kind of run the most complex version of that within VA01. Now, and I can drill down even further here. I can actually get all of the transaction codes. I can export those out. I can look at the test case coverage. So here I have the test case recommendations. It's saying that I'm going to need 2.25 days for execution. I'm going to need a lot longer than that to do the build. And then I have all the information about the T codes that I can export to Excel. Lastly, what I wanted to show is that I can dynamically change this information. So right now I'm at 100%. If I go ahead and change this to 98% coverage by typing in a different value, I'm now down to 51 test scripts. So my ERP, Enhancement Pack 7 and migration to HANA, I have 51 process steps that I need to test. Now there might be multiple test scripts for each step, but those are 51 T codes out of the 355 that my users use that are going to be impacted that I should test. This is valuable information for planning our upgrades because now we can more narrowly define the test scope and schedule our resources. We can reach out to the business. We can get them the information they need. We can reserve their resources. We can tell them what business processes need to be tested, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is going into the upgrade eyes wide open. Wonderful tool. So do we understand test scope? The answer should be yes. Using Scope and Effort Analyzer, we now understand test scope. And it's important to know you can use Scope and Effort Analyzer against ERP 6, Enhancement Pack 4, and above. That's kind of the base release of ERP that we can use it for. If you're using Enhancement Pack 6.0 with no enhancement packs and you're looking at a suite on HANA migration, we can use the Business Process Change Analyzer for you, but we're going to need to have the enhancement pack stalled somewhere first. And so you can do that, you just won't be able to do the planning like we did here. So with Scope and Effort Analyzer, I can do my planning 6 months, a year in advance, and get resources scheduled, get booked, get budgets. With Business Process Change Analyzer, I have to have one system upgraded and migrated in order to do that analysis. Next question, what is your current test strategy when you execute a support package stack or an enhancement pack project? Do you test everything, only critical processes, or is it tribal knowledge? And tribal knowledge is when we don't really have a test plan, we just let people loose on testing and then they just give us thumbs up later. Perfect. So we got some answers coming in. Critical processes only, and that's a good test strategy. And again, with Solution Manager Scope and Effort Analyzer, you're going to go in eyes wide open to make sure that those critical processes are actually impacted, and potentially find those processes that are not impacted or you didn't think about. Testing tools, lots of testing tools available to you. You as customers have the Solution Manager test tools available to you, Test Workbench, which includes Component-Based Test Assistant, CBTA, which is SAP's own test automation tool. So you as an SAP customer, using Solution Manager only, have a complete suite of testing tools for test planning, test execution, and test automation. Test option 2, often referred to in Solution Manager documentation as test option 2, is when you test with Solution Manager and HP tools. This is where we have the adapter for Quality Center, where I can send those test plans that I've built in Solution Manager based on my impact analysis. I can actually send those over to Quality Center and share that information with my HP testing teams so that they're able to build test plans very quickly in HP. Here I also have test automation with TAL or HP UFT. I also have performance testing here with LoadRunner. And then test option 3 is testing with IBM Rational. IBM Rational Quality Manager is a similar testing tool to Quality Center, a wonderful tool, and there's integration there as well. So let's move directly into the upgrade and migration just so we have time for questions. And again, this presentation will be sent out to everybody after here. You have 2 migration options when moving to Suite on HANA. Now the preferred option, and SAP's recommended, is the Software Update Manager. The Software Update Manager has the ability to upgrade and migrate in one step from any release above R3. So if I'm running R3 and above, I can do a Unicode conversion, I can include support packages, enhancement packages, and do the database migration all in one step. Now from a test practice manager perspective, this is a wonderful technical capability, because then I have one regression test cycle, right? If you do a 2-step upgrade, where I'm upgrading to an enhancement pack first, then doing the database migration, I now have to run 2 regression test cycles. So the Software Update Manager, with its 1-step upgrade from any release above R3, including Unicode conversion, is a wonderful option to maximize my testing dollars. The Software Provisioning Manager does enable you to migrate as is, with no upgrade, no inclusion of support packages. I can do my Unicode conversion, and it is available for ERP 6, SP5, and above. Now, for those of you doing the migration, if you're going to be spending your dollars on regression testing, you're going to do some testing, obviously, when migrating to HANA if you're not doing any upgrades. Just remember, ERP enhancement packages are installed dormant, and support package stacks have an equivalency. So, SP10 on EHP6 is equal to SP8 on EHP7, et cetera, et cetera. There's an equivalency of base code across those enhancement packages. So in general, SAP does recommend, NIMBL does recommend, and as part of our rapid deployment solution, we recommend using the Software Update Manager to, again, apply the latest enhancement pack, apply the latest support package stack, in addition to doing the database migration. Graphically showing the process here, up top I have the classical migration using Software Provisioning Manager, where I can upgrade from ERP to EHP7 and then do the migration. Whereas with the SumDMO, Software Update Manager with Database Migration option, I can go from any release of ERP R3 and above, and in one step move to the target database on HANA. Some of the advanced tools that we have available to us with this, You do have SLT, System Landscape Transformation, SAP System Landscape Transformation, which can help with those database migrations that are larger than 8 terabyte, where I might need to do some near zero downtime or need help moving data very quickly. SLT is there to help us there. TDMS is also here to help in our projects. Database refreshes become a little bit more complex when you're running 2 databases. So for example, if your ERP system is Oracle or SQL Server and your sandbox system is HANA, how do I get production data down very quickly? Client export import's not very practical. TDMS, SAP's Test Data Migration Server, has the ability to move test data from a non-HANA database to a HANA database environment. So a wonderful tool to support you on your projects. In terms of an example, we have a customer here that was a 6 terabyte ERP6 EHP4 on Windows. They leveraged the SUM Software Update Manager with database migration option. They included a support package stack, they included EHP, and they did it all in one step. Now initially the migration exceeded about 50 hours, which for everybody on the phone knows that's unacceptable for a weekend go live. Right? We couldn't do that. So we honestly just leveraged some hardware solutions by adding some solid-state disk for the DB, for the database during the migration, because that's where all the activity is happening. We're having a tremendous amount of reads, writes during the upgrade and the migration. And moving the database to solid state fixed those problems and got those migrations down to less than 18 hours, which is wonderful for a 6 terabyte database. Again, the Windows application servers kind of stayed where they were. The database moved to HANA. And just using some hardware options here, we were able to do it very quickly. When running the upgrade, for any of the technical folks on the team, you should know that there's a new upgrade UI. It's called the SL Common UI. It is SAP's UI5 version of Software Update Manager. I install the Software Update Manager, I connect it to an SAP host agent, and then now I get a web page where I go to access the UI5 application. It's no longer using Java. I no longer need to export my display, etc. It's now a completely SAP UI5 user interface within Software Update Manager to do the migration to HANA. It's available in Software Update Manager SP13 and above. Now technically behind the scenes, how does the magic work? Well, again, my application server doesn't have to move. I can move it if I need to, but I don't have to. So here in the scenario here, let's pretend I have a SQL Server database on the left, I have a Windows application server up top, and I have a HANA database on the right. HANA runs on Linux. So for a temporary time period during the upgrade, and this is during uptime, we're going to have what's called a shadow kernel, which is the new kernel release that we're going to. So this could be EHP7, and a shadow repository, which is a copy of your ABAP repository. There's going to be a shadow copy of it. And that's sort of all running on your system. Now as the upgrade progresses, we're going to migrate the repository over to HANA, and we're going to begin having the HANA kernel on your application server here as well. So for the technical folks on the roam and on the call, you're going to have 3 SAP kernels on your app server. You're going to have your source kernel version, you're going to have your target kernel version for the existing database, and you're going to have your target kernel version for the HANA database. So you'll have, believe it or not, 3 kernels running on your app server during this migration process. Now during downtime is when the application data is managed. So again, the application server stays the same. SAP end user clients, SAP GUI connections, they don't have to change their SAP logout information. They still connect to the SAP the same way that they did before. We're just changing the underlying database. And the database migration happens during downtime. Now that you know a little bit more about the technical activities, let's talk about the landscape. When running a suite on HANA migration, there's a variety of opinions out there as to what this landscape should look like. Should I have a 5-system landscape? Should I have a 4-system landscape? Those decisions come down to you. We prefer the 4-system landscape because it's a little bit more agile. It enables us to run our projects a little bit more quickly. And this is another component of our 12-week deployment of ERP on HANA. So it all starts with a copy of production down to a sandbox system, which we would system copy, upgrade, and migrate using the database migration option. Now a lot of people say, well, why wouldn't you copy development down to sandbox? And the answer is, when we're regression testing for a production ERP on HANA migration, we want to regression test against the production system. We know that there's going to be errors, there's going to be different things that go on in development because development is development. And so we do not copy the development system down to the sandbox. We copy production down to the sandbox environment. We upgrade it. We do our spouse bud remediation. We capture that in a transport. Then what we do is we do it all again. So we do one upgrade and database migration option. We capture our spouse bud activities. Then we start over, we do a second upgrade, and we conduct our full regression test within that sandbox landscape. And the benefit here is we're not impacting our production support landscape. We're able to work on that sandbox system. We may have a sandbox BW system, sandbox PI, sandbox CRM system kind of working in here, but we're regression testing. A majority of our regression testing is done here. And again, no code freeze. Typically week 3 to 4 or week 4 to 5, we take that sandbox and we rebuild it as a support system for production support. We provide that temporary support path from the support system to production because at this step in the game, we're upgrading and migrating development to ERP on HANA. So we rebuild the sandboxes, the support system, we set up transport routes, and at this point we're break fix only. So there's not necessarily a code freeze because your QA system is still online, your QA system is still in the same version as production. You can get those minor enhancements to production that are in QA that you had to move out of dev. But typically right now we're in break fix mode only. So it's sort of a soft code freeze. Next, we migrate to HANA. We migrate the QA system to HANA. We might do our critical process testing here. We might do our interface testing here. Again, we completed our full regression test in the sandbox system in week 1 to 3. So we did a 2-week regression test there. When we're in the QA system, we're going to do a light regression test, critical processes, interfaces, because again, we already completed that initial regression test in sandbox. And then ideally we go live in production. We do the production migration on a weekend. The support system still exists as a support mechanism in case of rollback, which we all know we don't want to use. So again, our 12-week project here is very easily laid out. I know that there might be a lot of people on the phone thinking there's no way that we could ever do this. And again, the key to doing this is going in with the scope and effort analyzer to do the impact analysis, to at a detailed level understand the custom code impacted, at a detailed level understand the transactions and programs being impacted so that I can very narrowly define my test scope and so I can effectively plan my test cycles. I can reserve my business users ideally months in advance. I can logistically schedule the training room, logistically set up all the test scripts so that my regression test cycle again is 2 to 3 weeks. And again, the stretch point for this project is right here in the middle at week 4 to 6. That's kind of our 2-week regression test. If that needs to become 3 weeks, then that would be week 4 to 7. If it needs to become 4 weeks, it's week 4 to 8. But ideally, we like to stay with this 12-week timeline. Some additional things that you all are going to need to think about when doing this is the standalone NQ server. So at a technical level, SAP no longer recommends an integrated NQ server as part of your central instance. Specifically for HANA, because the transactions can process so quickly, the locking mechanism tends to be the long pole in the tent. The SAP wants us to split out and have a standalone NQ server. If you're a new SAP customer today and you're doing a new installation, you would install a standalone NQ server. That is SAP's recommendation, and we can forward the SAP recommendation note. Apologies, it's not noted here, but we can send that out if you need it. HANA Live installation, when you're doing your Suite on HANA migration, you're going to be installing ideally, or as part of our RDS, we install HANA Live, we install personas, we install the Fiori applications, so that after go live, you're now ready to activate these features and functions to begin enhancing your environment right away. We don't want to go through a separate phase of install, a separate phase of downtime, etc. So when you do your Suite on HANA migration, make sure that you're including the Fiori add-ons, make sure you're including the Personas add-ons, and the HANA Live components as well. Another thing we need to think about is a dual stack split. ERP on HANA is ABAP only. If you have a Java stack on your ERP system, we know we saw that a lot in the early days of ERP where people were doing dual stacks. I don't see it a lot recently, but we do need to split that off. And then lastly, remember you have SAP Enterprise Support Services. Not only do you have the going live check, which everybody should know about or used once before, but you have the custom code maintainability check, and you have the OSDB migration check available as part of your Enterprise Support Services. So SAP Enterprise Support, again, you're going to get them integrated in the process. You're going to schedule these services from them, take advantage of them, so that we have as much information about our upgrade as possible. So before we get to questions, a couple things that we talked about. You want to maximize your test spend with an upgrade and migration. Just doing a standalone migration using SWPM is not SAP's recommendation and not ours as well. We want to get the latest feature set. We want to get the latest fixes. We want to include the latest enhancement pack, ideally with a recent support package tag in that process. Migrating to ERP HANA is the first step to S4. So at this point in the game, if you've moved to ERP on HANA, you're not running S4 yet, but you have to be on ERP on HANA in order to execute an S4 migration. And the reason why I say it's a migration is that S4 is essentially ABAP add-ons installed in ERP. You then execute a migration within the IMG. S4 activation is typically between a 30 and a 90-day project, depending on the complexity of your entities and the way you've set up your ERP system. So as a basis person, just know I got to install S4 as a collection of ABAP add-ons first, and then my functional team would do the activation of S4. Another thing I'm hoping that everybody takes away from here is that Solution Manager provides the tools that you need to go in eyes wide open on a Suite on HANA project. We have the ability to understand the custom code impact, and we have the ability to understand the impact on our production business processes today. And also know that I'm hoping some of the key takeaways more recently is that you know that there's going to be multiple landscape changes. I talked about moving to a standalone NQ server. I talked about the splitting dual stack, and I also talked a little bit about installing HANA Live. All those components are going to be part of this Suite on HANA migration project.
That about wraps it up. I want to thank Michael for the webinar. As he mentioned, the full presentation will be available, will be sent out to everybody who registered, and will also be available on BeNIMBL.com, BENIMBL.com, as well as our YouTube page. You can go to NIMBL, NIMBL. And I want to, again, thank everybody for joining us, and have a great weekend.